thank you for joining me today. Welcome to Fern Bridge Farm. I decided to do things a little differently. Last time I did the Vogue knitting online marketplace, I was in the barn, but it's such a beautiful day that I've decided to film outside today. I wanted to be able to show you the sheep and give you a little taste of what we do here on the farm. Hopefully some of the ewes will come and join me today, but I will definitely bring the camera to them if they decide not to. There is lots of buying going on in the background, as you can probably hear. We're getting close to dinner time for the sheep, so before too long we'll be feeding them. This is Saoirse, and she is a Morit Gulmagget. A lot of times the Gulmagget pattern fades, so she doesn't really have a very dark body anymore, but she is a Gulmagget. And then this is, Joan. She's not so sure of the video camera. So Joan is black, and her mom is modified. Her mom's a fawn. Her dad was black. He was actually Shayla. So she may actually have a modifier and be either Shayla or Emsket if she has two copies of that modified gene. But she's lovely. She's going on almost 2 years old now, and so this will be her first year getting bred. And there's Isla. Isla's the white ewe. So you can see we've got a lot of the colors of the Shetland sheep. This is Irma here. Irma's a lovely musket, so she's a brown-based sheep, and then there's a fading gene in Shetland sheep. And then this pretty girl, this is Hetty, and she's very spotty. In just a little bit, I will show you her ewe lamb from this year, whose name is Holland, and she's quite lovely. And I have help videoing. This is Hazel, and she is playing with my tripod, which is why things are a little bit bumpy videoing at the moment. She loves to help with anything and everything. She's super friendly. She loves everybody who comes to visit, and usually makes them pet her until they're just too tired to pet her anymore. That would be her dream anyway. So she's super, super sweet. And she is coming up on 2 in the spring, so she's in the running to be bred this year. So right now we've got 31 ewes on the farm, and actually there's a few of them that are not on the farm currently that are grazing off the farm, and we are not going to be breeding all of them. Thank you, Hazel. This year, as we have a big move coming up next year, so we will be breeding a subset of these beautiful girls. Okay, we are back. Oh, we're getting chewed on. We're back with the lambs now. These are all of the lambs, well, not all of them. Some have gone off to new homes, but these are the lambs that were born on the farm. Actually, these 2 girls over here to my right, this is Kilda and this is Kettle, and they were born on one of my friend's farms, and they have come to live here. So as you can see, the lambs are super friendly. We do farm tours and farm visits and experiences, and so these guys get lots and lots of attention. So I usually, when I have guests come to the farm, they get to spend time with the lambs. So the lambs become very, very friendly. We do have a few that are a little bit more shy. This little guy, his name is Peru, and he's just starting to get friendly now with me. So he's letting me just pet him a little bit. And then this little guy who's down in front, I don't know if you can see him, he's also white, and his name is Plainfield. And So he's a little bit more shy too. He's getting much more friendly now, but he's usually those two will kind of, if there's people visiting, they kind of go off on their own. This little guy is Pomfret, and so Pomfret, he's got a bell on. You can probably hear his bell. He's got a little bit of sass to him, actually a lot of sass to him. He was a bottle baby. His mom was a first-time mom, and she didn't realize she had twins. So his brother was born first, and then when he was born, she rejected him. And we tried a number of things to get her to accept him, but she just decided that she was happy raising one lamb. So Pomfret, we call him Pommy for short, he moved into the house for, oh gosh, I don't know, a month or so, maybe 3 weeks, and he was bottle fed, and then we started bringing him back out to the barn and still bottle feeding him, but getting him used to being next to his buddies and hanging out with his buddies, and learning how to be a sheep rather than a dog, because we have 2 dogs, and he liked to play with them a lot, and so he thought he was a dog for a little while, I think. So he has a bell on. He is actually going to be a true bellwether. So I don't know if you've ever heard the term before, bellwether. It's used a lot in business now, but the bellwether in the true sense of the word is a sheep. They're typically very friendly, so bottle babies are perfect for this. The wether part means that they're a castrated ram. And what they do is he's going to live with the majority, the big flock. So big group of ewes, and Plainfield is playing music with our chain. He's going to live with the big flock of ewes. And he's got just a little baby bell on for right now, but as he gets bigger, he'll have a bigger bell. It'll be louder, so when he's out in the field, we'll be able to hear him from quite a distance away. If there's an issue, you can really hear the bell. So if they start running, it's a change in tone and you really hear it. So if there's an issue, if there's, being chased by a dog, or there's just something going on, a lot of times you really hear that bell. So that's what his job is going to be. And because he's so friendly, he knows his name, and if I call to him, he will come and find me. So it's a really nice way to be able to bring the flock in quickly. So if there is an issue, I can go out, yell to him, and he'll come up to the barn. And then, because they have such strong flocking instincts, the rest of the flock's going to want to come with him. So it's just a really, really nice way to get them into the barn quickly and away from any danger. And it's just also nice, we don't have any we have a working dog, he's a livestock guardian dog, but we don't have any herding dogs on the farm, at least not right now. So it's also a really nice way to get the large flock in. So he's going to be a really nice little asset to the farm. We raise our sheep for their wool only. So we have all of the little guys that have horns in this group are all wethers. The rams, the baby ram lambs are in their own little group. Usually Labor Day's the cutoff for pulling them out of being with the ewe lambs. Because they start getting really interested in the girls about that time. So all of the little guys that are in here are wethers. So they, when we castrate them, that means that they either get to stay on our farm as little wool producers, or it means they get to go live on another farm where they want pet sheep or wool sheep for fiber, if they're spinners, or just really or felters, or whatever they use the wool fiber for. So They're really sweet. The Wethers, if people aren't going to breed, a lot of times I just recommend Wethers anyway. Some people can be intimidated by their horns. This little guy is what they call half-polled. So he's got very short horns, and after they're weathered too, their horns grow much slower. So he's never going to have really big horns. And once they're weathered too, they don't use their horns really like rams do. I've heard some sheep breeds will sometimes be a little bit sassy with their horns and will, but the Shetlands, for the most part, I have found when they're Wethers, they're not interested in ramming you. They're interested in cookies and petting. So as you can see, so this little guy is Putney. He was a triplet born here on the farm this year. So he is a light gray Catmaget Wether. So the Catmaget pattern, they have this really pretty face markings. It's called, they call it badger face. And so it's really pretty markings around, especially around their eyes. And they also, their body color will be light colored, and then they will have a dark underbelly. So usually from the neck down through the belly and under the tail. So that is what his marking is. This little one here, this is Kettle, and she has the Shetland fading gene. And I pointed out Irma to you earlier. Irma is a brown based with the fading gene, and Kettle is the black based sheep coloring with that fading gene. So she, a lot of the black sheep will fade out in the sun, so or bleach out in the sun. So she looks a little bit brown, but she actually is black. And she's gonna turn gray, so if I show you her fleece way down deep, it's getting really light. So her face and her legs will actually stay dark, and then the rest of her body after her first shearing will be a lot of times they're medium gray after their first shearing, and then shearings after that they're a really light gray. So it's really kind of interesting, their colors that they have. So Shetland sheep have 11 natural colors, which we have, I think we've got almost all of them on the farm as of right now. So total right now we've got 55 sheep. That number changes as we sell sheep or breed sheep or bring new bloodlines in. So that number is kind of always fluctuating. We're gonna have let's see. We've got 3 adult rams right now, and then we're going to be leasing a ram. We are working on a project to reestablish a ram tail line that has almost died out in the States. So the original Shetland sheep that were brought in came in from Canada in the 1980s. They were brought over originally from Great Britain. And there were only 4 rams and 30 ewes, and so the majority of the Shetland sheep in the U.S. Originated from those sheep. It's not a very big gene pool. So they started importing frozen semen on the sheep in the 1990s. And so there's been subsequent importations, but it's quite a process. There's the sheep that they are going to collect semen on in Great Britain, they have to stay in quarantine for a year and have blood work done, genetic testing, make sure they're free from diseases before they can be collected. So as you can imagine, those costs add up really quickly. So we have this one bloodline. Actually, there's a few of the ram tail lines that there haven't been a lot of sheep bred with in the last, well, at least 10 to 15 years. So those ram tail lines are in danger of dying out. And so to keep as much genetic diversity in the U.S. as possible by maintaining the lines that we already have and by importing frozen semen, those are the ways to do it. So the line that we're going to work on preserving and bringing back is called the Brent line, and we have a number of sheep that are part of that Brent line, and there's not very many rams left from that Brent line, so that's why I'm actually going to be leasing one this fall to help reestablish that line. So it's a lot of information. We keep extensive records on pedigrees, on genetics, on color. We do micron testing on our fleece, so we have fine fleece Shetlands. So every year we send in fleece samples. They're taken from the side of the sheep near their midsection here. So we just trim a small section of their fleece and send that to, there's a number of labs. We send ours to Texas A&M University, and we get a whole bunch of data back on the quality of their fleeces. So the micron count, the average micron, and if you are, there's been a lot of talk about it more and more in the yarn industry, because people are really getting super interested in the details of their yarn. So the micron count will tell you the fineness of the individual fibers within the sheep. And then there's also, you get standard deviation, so the amount of difference between the fibers in their fleeces. So the fine fleece Shetlands, typically as young breeding stock. Oh boy, we've got Pummy behind me, ow, pulling my hair. And so the fine fleece Shetlands, typically you'll see micron counts anywhere from 18, which is very, very soft for Shetlands, all the way up to like the mid-20s. So for breeding stock, generally you're not going to be breeding much over that for the fineness to be able to maintain those fine fleece, the fine fleece standard. There are 3 different fleece types in Shetlands. There's a fine fleece, there's an intermediate, which is kind of wavy. They don't have a lot of crimp necessarily, but it's wavy, it's soft. And then there's the dual coated Shetlands, which their wool is gonna be much more like Icelandic sheep, where they have the two coats. They have the hair coat which is very coarse, and it sheds water, and it's often used for carpet making because it's very durable. And then they have a really fine, soft, downy undercoat, which is very similar to the fine fleece wool that you'll find just on the fine fleece Shetlands. So, and they are all within breed standard, as long as they meet those. There is a cap for the micron count. You really don't want to see Shetlands more than about 30 microns for the wool. The hair sheep, the dual coated with the hair will probably give you a reading that would be higher than that. But 30 microns is kind of the cap for the breed standard, so it's definitely interesting to get those results back, and we use those results in our breeding program. So if we have a ewe maybe who's not as fine as we'd like to see them, we'll breed her with a really, really fine Shetland ram, and oftentimes their fleece quality improved, their offspring's fleece quality improves greatly with that breeding. Usually within a couple generations, you can really improve your fleece quality if that's something that you're breeding for, and you want to maintain the fine fleece Shetland standard. These guys are considered a primitive breed. So in the time that they've been domesticated, they haven't been influenced a lot by the breeding. People have really strived to maintain the original flock characteristics and their conformation. They're really, really hardy little sheep. They tend to be smaller, so these guys are lambs that I'm sitting with here, so they're not full grown. One of the things with the primitive breeds, they tend to grow and mature slower, so they're usually not full grown until like 2 years old, and a lot of times the rams don't really fill out and get really big and look like a mature ram until they're at like 3. And sometimes it can take longer than that. So it's really interesting how that compared to other breeds that are heavily domesticated, how that can be very, very different. So we do, their conformation is kind of our number one priority when we're breeding. We want to make sure that we're breeding healthy sheep that meet that conformation, and then fleece quality and color and things like that can come secondary, but we really just want really nice healthy sheep. We don't breed heavily necessarily for particular colors. Sometimes we will put rams and ewes together to get certain combinations, but generally, just the conformation of the sheep and the fineness of their wool, so that they're meeting that breed standard, is what we're really striving for. But we do. We've got some really lovely darker sheep, and the darker wool is very popular. I usually have a batch of what they call Shetland black, because they get those bleached out tips. They tend to, it gives the wool this really pretty, very warm tone to it. So it's black, but it has this really rich, almost chocolatey color to it. So and that yarn I sell out of every time, like right away. That's the first one that I sell out of every year after it goes to the mill. So we do have a number. We've kind of added some more sheep, so we'll be able to produce more of that darker yarn, that people really enjoy working with. We do dye some of our yarn as well. So we use heavy metal free acid dyes, and we also do some natural dyeing. We've been doing more acid dyeing lately. Using natural dyes can be very water intensive, so we are mindful of that. But if you're careful, you can reuse some of the dye baths as well, and then you're really being careful of your water use. I will show you some of our yarns. We have everything online on our website, which is fernbridgefarm.com. And I don't know if I mentioned it in the beginning. I meant to, but I was getting distracted by sheep that were trying to take the camera down. I'm Kelly. I'm the owner and shepherdess here at Fern Bridge Farm. And my background is actually in animal science. I went to the University of Vermont, and I actually studied breeding horses. And a lot of that has transferred over to sheep. And they're just so much fun, and as you can see, they're little joys. It's sometimes hard to not just sit out here all day and pet these little guys, because they are very, very enjoyable and just love attention. And they can be very mischievous at times. As you saw Pommy pulling my hair, that's something he loves to do. He's a bit spoiled, so sometimes he acts out and acts like a very spoiled little toddler. But we still love him, and he's a really good boy. Without further ado, I'm going to introduce you to Jalen. She's a very special little sheep on our farm. And then I will show you some of my yarn. So I'll see you back in just a few minutes. Okay, so this is Jalen, and she was born last year, and Jalen has a very special place on this farm. Jalen was born blind, and so she is right now in a pen with her mom. That's her mom, Jenny, and Jenny is one of the best moms on our farm. Jenny is retired now, but she gets to spend her days with Jalen, and they get to go out in private accommodations because Jalen, because she's blind, sometimes the other sheep will have a tendency to pick on her. But she does really well. She is super smart. She'll rest her head on her mom's side to walk around, and sometimes she gets adventurous and kicks up her heels and goes out for a little run. We keep her in an area that is a mesh fence, like a metal wire mesh fence, so that if she runs into the fence, she won't get zapped, because we do have some electric fence. Our perimeter fence is electric, so we're very careful about where she gets to go out. And we will also hand graze her, so I have a halter, and she will get hand grazed as well. But she's incredibly smart. She has amazing sense of smell and hearing. She knows when I come into the barn before anybody else. She will often bawl first, and when I've come in to feed them. And so she's just a sweet pea. When she was little, she spent a lot of time in my house. So that her mom, Joan, which I introduced you to her earlier. So Joan and Jenny, her mom, could go out and graze. I would bring Jalen into the house to hang out with me. She had little diapers, and she memorized my entire floor plan of my house in like 2 weeks. And then she would march around my house like she could see, and she played with my dogs, and she just is such an amazing little sheep, and she is so friendly and so amazingly trusting. So we love her dearly, and so she's going to stay on the farm, and she's just going to produce wool. She's got this beautiful Morat color. So you can see that little thumbprint. They call it a thumbprint on her nose where it's white. That's not just glare from the camera. That's actually white. So her mom has that same thumbprint, and her mom is fawn. So she started, when she was born, she would have been the same color as Jalen, very dark brown. But she's got a copy of that modifier gene. So when they have one copy and they're brown, they turn fawn like Jenny. So Jalen, that thumbprint is a pretty good indication that she's got that modifier gene too. You'll see that with the black sheep, and if black sheep have that thumbprint, you're probably they're gonna turn into what they call Shayla for color. So you'll see they won't be a true black. They'll look kind of like a smoky black. And you'll see that thumbprint, and I do have some ewes that have that as well. So she's super sweet, and you can see her wagging her tail. Shetlands, like dogs, will wag their tail when they're happy. So my husband likes to call them outdoor dogs, but she's just a really sweet doll. So I wanted to be able to make sure you all got to meet Jalen.
Okay, so this is just a small selection of some of my yarns that I have out here in the barn, so that I could show them to you. We have two different, well, they're actually three different bases right now, but two different weights. We've got a worsted weight and we have two different fingering weights at the moment. So this yarn here, this is a fingering weight. It's a 2-ply fingering weight. The put up of it is basically very similar to like Jamieson and Smith. So I actually have a hat pattern here and kits that I designed for that yarn in particular. And there's two colorways. There's a pretty pinks with gold, and then there's also a really pretty turquoise with gold. So if you like knitting from kits, then I do have those all kitted up, and everybody is begging for their dinner behind me. And then this yarn that's here, this is also a fingering weight, but it's a 3-ply. So I have dyed a lot of that in very bright colors, and multicolor. So for anyone that likes knitting socks, that is a good option. The 3-ply definitely makes it a little sturdier. It does not have nylon in it, so if you do wear through heels and toes or specific areas in your socks, sometimes holding a reinforcing thread with it is a good idea. I know Lang makes a really great reinforcing thread that I use a lot of times when I'm knitting socks. It is a woolen nylon reinforcing thread. And a lot of yarn shops do carry Lang yarns, so that's something that I might recommend. But if you darn socks already, then it can be pretty easy to just darn them when they start getting thin. That's usually what I do. And the other yarns here, these are our worsted weights. So these are all natural colors. This is a really lovely, it's kind of a medium brown. This lighting is a little bit hard to see them in, but I do have pictures of them. This is called Royal Fern Worsted. It's my worsted weight, and I have also Royal Fern Worsted Heathers. So this is my heathered version. It's not quite as uniform. It's got these really fun little highlights, dark and light tones that give it more of a heathered look to it. I really want to knit a sweater in this because I think it would be just really pretty. So I've got multiple colors. I've got this in a color I'm calling Shayla, which that is sort of Shayla. It's actually probably closer to Msket. Anyway, and then this I have in, I think, 2 other colors right now. And those are all on my website, which is fernbridgefarm.com. And I'll put that information on in the video at the end.
I just want to thank you so much for joining me. I ran back inside because I wanted to remember to give you the code for free shipping. So the code for free shipping is VK Live. So anything that you buy, just use that code and I will, you'll get free shipping. And also one little treat that I'm adding into is any orders over $50, I'm including a little sheep ornament. So these are handmade ornaments. I make these using wool remnants, so just leftover wool from different industries, and they're stuffed with wool from our flock. So they're just little ornaments, and there's a variety of different colors, and so I, for any order over $50, I will pop one of these little guys in with your order. And I just want to thank you for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed the mini tour of our farm and enjoyed getting to see the sheep, and they're an awful lot of fun. And if you're ever in Vermont, definitely look me up and you can come and do a tour of the farm. I really enjoy having people come and visit and sharing my sheep with them. So thanks again, and Have a great rest of your Vogue Knitting Live weekend. Bye.